Guns, guns, guns! Call of Duty Vanguard was so fun. I love World War II. I realize Call of Duty has another World War II game, Call of Duty World War II. But this one, for being a lot more modern, a lot more... The graphics are great, the audio design, even the story. Ultimately, it's just another Call of Duty, like most of them are, but yeah, this one is really cool because it was the first one to be in this sort of modern lineup that they're doing ever since they rebooted Modern Warfare 2019. They're all kind of connected. There's been a few titles by now that have similar features, all the options you have in the settings, how they're all connected, they're all in like the same menu style format, easier access. But before any of like the main stuff of the actual game, as far as the interconnectivity goes and the style and the format, all that, only downside to Call of Duty Vanguard, to these modern Call of Duties in general, is the storage. Supposedly it's getting better. I'm not really quite seeing it. It takes so much storage. I find these newer games mostly tailored to PC for sure. Because of the layout of the menus, the UIs. It's like one button goes to another menu, to another menu, to another menu. It's wild. On console, it's almost unmanageable. Like, you are spending a lot of time just initially going through the settings alone for the actual game. There's so many, which is good. It's better than nothing. But it's almost too much to where it's overwhelming. You get used to it after a while, sure, and like, if you're wanting to play, granted, you're gonna go through the settings regardless. You're gonna go through whatever it is that you have to play the game. Call of Duty is one of the most biggest popular games in the world. There's no denying that. It has absolute power, which is fine. Very well deserves it. The campaigns are great. But yes, on console it is hard to navigate through. I'm just kind of getting some of these little things out of the way first because the games itself are really hard to complain about. But this is kind of something, just an initial reaction when you first boot up this game or any of this lineup of Call of Duties are doing nowadays. It could be overwhelming at first. But the odds are, if you're playing this game at all, or if you're getting it, if you bought it, you have it, you're gonna go through whatever it is that you have to play it. That's any game, sure, but especially a franchise like this is so desirable, and so anyone can play it, anyone can get into it, all ages. You know, military, guns, you can't really go wrong there. It's just the most safest thing you can do for a video game is to make something exactly like this. But those are just little little unfortunate circumstances. So yeah, the space and the UI navigation. Other than that, though, I like how they're all connected. I like how they're really tying these together. They're not all just their separate own thing anymore, which you can't beat the classic CODs. But these newer ones, they have such a quality standard that is really hard to beat. The cutscenes alone obviously look fantastic.
Would you look at that?
Hell of a world! Who's up for saving it?
I couldn't stop looking and watching, and especially with this being World War II, a time period era game, it wasn't far off from looking like you were watching a legitimate World War II movie. Like, there's different ways that a game can be done and written and performed, all these things. You can either do short stories of random people throughout the world, or you could do something like this that's a lot more condensed and like broken down, or like tight, where you're still kind of doing individual people's stories. I really like the direction they took. It was just, I couldn't take my eyes off it. The characters that are in this game are all very unique from around the world. Pretty standard thing, really. But I think what was nicer than just finding out more about the characters, the character development, was seeing them all together. I liked that they were a group and a unit and a squad. And you could tell just from what you could within the game that these guys have been around, they've been together, they're working together. Even though they're all so different, they're also have different cultures and from different places. That's what I love to see, is just unity, just coming together. There's nothing more simple and basic and pure than that. And right off the bat, that's a great message to get out of it right away. This isn't some lone soldier journey. Even for those who think they can do everything alone in their life, odds are, in some way or another, throughout your life even, to that point, you need people. You really do. You need them to help you and be on their side. Give and take. You be on their side, help each other out, teamwork. And these guys, especially in these situations, you don't have much of a choice other than to literally work together. I realize that's how war is, that's how these old days were. But the biggest thing to get out of it is to take that into today's standards, and just good positive things to be said about this game. Which, when people think of Call of Duty, it's like, oh, yearly, like I was saying earlier, it's just another Call of Duty game. You know, they pump these out. These are all things, I'm not even trying to be mean at this point. This is just basic knowledge. But what I've grasped out of these games, each and every one of them, I didn't even start playing Call of Duty myself until probably a couple years ago when I started streaming. I was like, you know what, this is a great time to, like, I'm getting older, I'm giving this game a little bit more thought, I'm accepting it into my world a little bit more, I'm not as picky as I used to be, a little more lenient with my game choices, and Because I always looked at it as just a game for your friend's younger brother to play in his room all day with girls and friends and a big TV, and because that is literally what is possible to see. That's the first impression I get out of Call of Duty, and it doesn't really... I think if you have like an old soul, or you're somewhat old school, or some sort of millennial, or whatever it may be, like, I don't know, unless you grow up with it, unless you played Xbox especially, I just don't think it's gonna appeal to you quite the same, and it depends on who you are, sure. But I think Call of Duty is a nice break from the usual stuff that you might play. It's a good way to get out of your comfort zone. It's something different. It's a brainless FPS shooter game that you just want to have some fun, blow some shit up. Whether you're talking PvE or PvP, you can get that out of it no matter what. And you're never gonna get a game, any COD game, on sale, at least digitally, for less than $20. So you know that when you play this game, you're getting an experience out of it that not most games might be able to offer you, because there's been so much money pumped into this that you know that when you buy this game and you play it, whether it's just the campaign or not, like, you're gonna have a damn little good time. And that's what was incentivizing to me the most, is that it's just not typically what I would play or what I would go to. But I do like the military, I like special forces, I like the vehicles, I like the history of it all. So to me, it was just kind of second nature. Like, yes, I stood away from it for so long and didn't want it in my life, like a lot of big franchise mainstream games out there, but considering that it's Call of Duty and that it's something I knew I wouldn't hate once I actually gave it a chance, it's actually been one of the most important games to me on my channel, because I've played so many of them. And how a lot of this current channel started with what I'm doing. One of the first few games I actually played was one of the Call of Duties. So it kind of holds a special place to me in a weird way, because it's like not... Like, I like a challenge. Like, it's not always going to be anime. It's not always going to be some random IP that is out there. Over time, your selection does become limited. Like, there's still a lot of games I would love to play that's in my backlog that I just haven't touched yet. But Call of Duty is such a nice... I'm not obsessed, I'm not a Call of Duty fanboy by any means, but it's such a cool stand-in in between games. Like, take a break from my usual, whatever it may be. Because everyone's got a style of games, everyone's got a thing, a flavor. So this game will definitely... It'll speak to you. And if you've watched enough war movies throughout your life, this is just another form of entertainment to have even more perspective on top of those movies. Not only are you watching it, but you're playing it. You're in it. You can't really be a whole lot more in it than this, other than, like, okay, some sort of VR situation. So yes, there's some negative points. There's plenty of positive points. The campaign itself, it's about what you'd expect. Very standard, very familiar. If you've watched enough war movies, like what I mentioned earlier, you'll see a lot of similarities here, like especially within this game. Like, there's a lot of World War II games out there, but there's so many that how do you decide even what ones do you want to play or not? At least with Call of Duty, there's kind of that branding there, brand recognition. Cobra! To to establish some sort of like, hey, if I'm gonna do this at all, this is how it's gonna be. Which has been great for me. Like, sure, there's been frustrating moments within these campaigns. Like, not everything's perfect. There's gonna be times where I'm dying over and over, I'm getting shot. Whether you're playing on easy mode or not, like, these things will happen. And I've played enough of this just recently, within, what, the past year, maybe? Like, I've been giving war games in general a chance for a while now, but, like, I've always played war games. PS2, Medal of Honor, blah blah blah, SOCOM. But yeah, the older games were more arcadey. The older CODs were more arcadey. These new games, you really have to, like, watch your ass. Because everything is so 3D, so precise, so, like... You can get shot the most ridiculous ways. AI nowadays are just cracked. They're juiced. And you gotta be on your toes. You could be shot from, like, the most obscure angle ever. Or not everything is explained to you. They don't just tell you things. They don't give you a guide or a tutorial or nothing. They just kind of throw you in, and you'll never know what to expect. Like, each Call of Duty game up to recently has been really, really, really unique throughout the years. Lately, it has been sort of more like, hey, we're not probably gonna go more back than, like, 50 years, but we're not really going ahead by about 50 years either. I think a lot of the recent games like this have been pretty grounded as far as, like, you know, current era things, because that's what's popular. That's what people like, is the here and now, today. You know, just give us something to relate to now, to go off of, instead of, like, you know, something from... Well, you can only go back so long, right? But you can go forward however many years you want. There's plenty of things you can do when you're adding on, like, 100 years within the future and stuff. Which is definitely not as popular as either the older stuff like this or more so modern stuff, because the future is scary and most people don't really accept it or want it or like it. I embrace it, but that's just me. So yeah, the story's good. You start off in a really cool area. There's always that first mission that is really memorable. It's like that mission during the game that you just will not forget ever. It was weird with this game particularly, at least in my experience. I started it on last gen, on PS4, and I had a lot of problems with it, which is pretty common for last gen, new gen games. But it was bad. It was basically not far from unplayable, and it was pretty disappointing. Buggy, glitchy, just something felt way off. Like, it still looked great, sure, like most of these games will, no matter what. Like, they're gonna look pretty, but dude, you're gonna have some really bad performance issues. So it got so bad to the point where my game crashed and I was just about done with the story. Spend a good amount of time on it. When you first play anything, you're gonna, like, spend a hefty amount of time possibly looking around. You're learning how to play, adjusting to the graphics, getting used to it, getting over the fact that you're dying possibly over and over or whatever, and you're just enjoying it, really, which I was until the game crashed on last gen. PS4 Pro, by the way, still doesn't really help the situation, and I lost all my game data. I was like dude, I was just about done with the campaign. I could have got it over with, moved on, did the other modes, multiplayer, whatever. So I kind of got screwed there. That wasn't really a fun experience for me. It was unfortunate, but because that doesn't happen often to me. Like, everyone has their own way of how things work out for them, and normally think like 95% of the time, I never really have issues like that at all. So I was like, alright, you know what, I'm just gonna like give it a break. Cause I really didn't want to replay that. It was so hard to get through as it was that I was like, nah. It just didn't seem worth it at the time. I had other stuff I wanted to play, and there was plenty of other things I could have done to fill up that time until I could have figured out or found a good time to come back to the game and finish it. Because I wanted whatever trophies out of it I could get. I wanted to just say that, hey, I beat the campaign, I did it, I experienced it, it's over, done, out of the way. Had a good time, whatever. So, how it ended up actually working out was I got a next-gen console, PS5, and I did have to upgrade it and purchase the upgrade. I didn't have to, I could have played the PS4 version, but the problem is playing that even on the PS5 alone, I don't think that would have solved a lot of the problems that I was having regardless on my last console or not, so I didn't even want to chance it. I was like, you know what, if there's not a lot of PS4 games have a PS5 upgrade. If there is a chance to get a better version, which in my experience so far, I wouldn't say PS5 versions are perfect, but they are a lot better. So it was definitely worth the small upgrade price to upgrade this game particularly, because it worked great. I had no problems. I got through the whole campaign super easy, super quick, super fast, because I've already played most of it, first of all, so I already knew what I was doing. But, it was nice to just finish the game, and on a high note, I got to finish it, I got to the point where I could have done that, and it was on a better version, looked better, sounded better, whatever. So, I don't know, it kind of worked out. I guess you don't really have much of a choice other than to take something good out of something that kind of turned out bad. That's just life in general. So yeah, I ended up finishing it on next gen. I was really excited. I was like, it's like I'm playing again for the first time, but it was so different graphically and all these things that it really did feel like a first time again. It was kind of weird. It was cool. You just never know what'll happen with the game or the versions. Everything's so wild now. So that was cool. I really didn't have much left. Like, I didn't know for sure how much of the campaign I had left by the time it crashed. Like, how would I have known, right? There's no... You're not always gonna get that clear indication of when you're gonna know that a game is over or not. But there wasn't much left. I was like, eh... Kind of wasn't worth replaying entirely, but I definitely didn't mind it either. Thanks to the better version that I was playing it on. Because I've noticed that with a lot of new gen games lately, that if you are playing on last gen, it's not going to be pretty. I mean, I think it took a while for me to accept that at first. I was like, well, it's being sold on last gen, right? So it's fine. It's not good. And I don't think... I don't want to go too into it, but that is part of my experience with this game, is that whole last gen, new gen battle kind of thing. Yeah, it's pretty sucky, but worked out in the end, and I'm glad it did. Because I'm sure I'm not the only person who had that problem, right? I mean, other games and other... That's a whole separate thing. But yeah, what I'm basically trying to say is, like, if you are going to try to play this, if haven't already, you gotta get it on either PC or next gen, because it will basically not work on last gen. And you might exactly have done what happened to me, is you lose all your progress, which sucks. Because with any game, granted, these COD campaigns are short, sweet, simple, basic. Just some nice little fluffing to kind of get through the day or whatever it is that you're doing in your life, but it's still not good. You know, that's wasted time. That was hours of nothing. Like, it's one thing accidentally deleting progress, which isn't very common to do now. Thankfully, it's all kind of stuck together in its own data application kind of thing, and like, if you're accidentally getting rid of progress in games and stuff, you're gonna have to kind of really go out of your way to do that. But at this point, I didn't do anything wrong. It was just unfortunate. You know, when you're playing on last gen, you're desperate to play these new games and you want to give them a shot, and you end up paying money for nothing because the game is such a bad performance. The good thing is, and which is why I think they do this at all, which they shouldn't be. I tried to skip over this, but it's so hard to do that. Is that there are upgrades for a lot of these games once you do get that next-gen console, so that's great. Some of them you do have to pay for, fine, a few bucks, but if you have the whole game already, boom, there you go, done. Problem, you know, good to go. So that's the only good thing that can come out of it, but even still, what's going to happen when you already started up a game, you're in the middle of it, you get a next-gen console, you want to play the next-gen version, but then you'd basically have to start the whole game over again, because in order to transfer your save data file over to that other version, you have to do it over the cloud or something with PlayStation Plus. It's a whole hot mess. I didn't really talk about any of this in my recent PS5 unboxing video, but yeah, there are a lot of next-gen issues that need to be accounted for pretty badly. But I think what was nice about paying, it wasn't just some free upgrade, because it'll vary between a single-player game, an online cross-gen game, which is account-based, where all that data is gonna come over. So when I started this game up, for example, the multiplayer carried over, even though it's a brand new version. It's only account-based games that are gonna carry that data over. Like, hey, your gamer tag is blah blah blah. So that's kind of nice that it does that at least. Like, you're not starting completely over, but since I lost my original game save data anyway, it's not like I started up the PS5 version and all of a sudden whatever progress I did happen to lose was actually there. It was just gone. It wasn't there. So yeah, aside from all that, I really wanted to include all that because it's kind of important to consider, I think, in general, because it is the next gen game that is purchasable on a last gen console, which blows my mind, but you really just got to be smart and think about these things. And I think unless you can think of it for yourself, you're gonna be stuck there kind of like maybe not knowing, and then you make a lot of mistakes. You end up buying more games that keep coming out, whether they're brand new or they're on sale, on your last gen console, and you're just gonna really start to not like gaming or not enjoy your experiences. And the only thing you can do is either go back to older games or get new older games or whatever it is. Which sucks because this game is cool, and you know, I've been on a Call of Duty streak for a while now, and I wasn't just gonna let this game go, or I wanted to get it. But unfortunately at the time I still had last gen, and it just, like, I'm already going out of my way to play this game as it is, like, it's just, it wasn't good. It was one of those moments where if you wanted to give up on a franchise or gaming in general, it's kind of stuff like that that really pushes that boundary. But the single player was good.
Bloody oath! Save some for us, Novak!
Great time, great story, great graphics, great gun audio design. Like I said, with the PS5 version, you do actually get the adaptive triggers, which I'm still getting used to, by the way. You get the much more haptic feedback remote. This is just on PS5, by the way. You get... I tried the 3D audio option, but I don't have the 3D Pulse headphones, so I didn't even go there. I tried it for like a minute and I just put it back to stereo. It's just another feature that's there, you know? Really fast loading. Obviously, I'm sure this played just fine on PC. I wouldn't know anything about Xbox. Even on next-gen Xbox, I assume it worked great there. Obviously. The multiplayer was pretty fun too. Because one thing that bugs me with the more modern stuff or the future stuff or whatever is that it's so... it just feels linear. Like, you have this choice of options, but it's like an illusion because you're in a more advanced time than what could have been like World War II or... But really, I think you're a lot more held back. Because at least in World War II, it's like, dude, this is nitty-gritty, brutal, savage, weapons of pure destruction and war and big old bullets and big guns and scary shit. So this was... the multiplayer was fun. It's just, it's funny to see like a bunch of people, you know, around the 40s or whatever, wearing all these things, using these guns, just running around shooting each other. Like at the time where I don't think humanity stuck together more in the entirety of the history of the human Earth, the planet, civilization. Everyone's just shooting each other. It's just funny, but like, you know, and we're using such like basic, really early design guns, and but that's kind of what makes it fun, though. Is that it was such a simpler time. We're always nostalgic, right? And looking back, oh, back in my day. Well, yeah, those were good times for a reason. Like, it's not a bad thing to look back here and there and enjoy those kind of moments. Or in this case, not really enjoy, but like to look back on and appreciate. Other than that, I mean, multiplayer is multiplayer. There's everything you'd expect it to be. There's all the modes. There's skins, costumes, same layout as the other Call of Duties of today, so that's what's nice here. I kind of wish they were all their own separate thing, because your account is linked to every single one of these games. So when you boot up multiplayer for the first time, you're not really starting a brand new experience. You're starting from the ground up. That's what I kind of like. Like, it kind of sucks because everyone's better than you most likely, but like, you're level 1, you're ranking up your guns, you're getting XP, putting on attachments that you're unlocking, making your calling card look cool, your emblem, blah blah blah. But here it's like after the campaign zone, which is the only real different thing from all these other games, is you're just kind of right back where you left off, but you just happen to be playing that game of it, and you're using those guns. Like, I think even all the guns are they're all kind of circulated. There's gonna be specific things to each game, obviously, like the maps, but it's also tied together now that each of these games don't have an identity of their own. Which is kind of unfortunate, but I think throughout time they just figured that, like, hey, we're pumping these out like kids. Basically yearly releases, technically, and I mean, fuck it, let's just combine it all, let's make it easier. And that's just what direction they chose to take. So, I mean, whatever works, right? Like, these guys know what they're doing a lot more than I do. They're the developers, not me. So if that's what they feel is right, then great. But it's so funny, because when you compare the older CODs to the newer ones, it's like, at least in the older ones, dude, you're starting from scratch. You're really having a cool little weird time of, like, playing these older games, but it's a thing that you get to have to yourself, all of your own. And it's not just some tied together thing, which was kind of nice. But so there's like a good point and a bad point to it, like with most things, but that's fine. Yeah, I think this one was pretty, because gotta realize this came out after the pandemic hit, so it came out in a weird time, and then it makes you wonder, like what I was saying earlier, is the game not optimized well because of those issues that were around? Not as relevant today, obviously, sure, but or was it some sort of next gen, last gen thing? So yeah, I think you definitely got to give this game a good chance before you start, like, finding reasons that you might not agree with it, how it was made, whatever. It's solid. It's a good game. Not everyone likes World War II stuff. Not everyone likes older shit. They're like, those old guns, piece of crap. Little dinky toy guns. Dude, this shit's cool, man. It's because of this era that led to your modern games now. Your modern warfare now. So, like, you gotta respect it a little bit. And I can kind of see where they're coming from. I particularly don't care. I like older stuff, newer stuff. It's all kind of the same to me, but yeah, this one was nice. One of the sections in here actually reminded me a lot of a movie called Enemy at the Gates, I think. It's like a sniper, old military movie. Oldish. That was the most I was able to connect this game to, like, some sort of movie. But it was it was so familiar to me that it was just nice to get that out of it. Like I'm not just playing this game right now here and I'm in it. It was cool that it gave me... It's always nice when you can tie it together with something else that you enjoy. That technically has nothing to do with this, but it's like... It's all information, it's all history, so it all gets passed around, and I think it's kind of cool. I mean, the game's got Nazis in it. I mean, who doesn't love a good Nazi game, right? It's just pure fun, it's enjoyment, it's a thrill ride. So yeah. Single player is good. Multiplayer is okay. I don't really like multiplayer. And everything else, gonna have to find out for yourself. It's good. It's good. It's good. Call of Duty Vanguard. Ah.